Welcome back into Hittin Hard on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Jon Chuckery here with you, asking you to head over to youtube.com. Check out our page. Just put Locked On Atlanta in your browser and hit the subscribe button. Be a part of our ever-growing community. And, of course, you can follow me on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. We welcome into the program. Maria Martin is joining us. You can follow her on Twitter at Maria_Martin. You see her all the time on 11 Alive. And thank you so much, Maria, for being a part of the show today. Thanks for hanging out with me for a few minutes.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you asked me to come on.
Well, let's go all around. Let's start with the Braves so I can get my frustrations out of the way. Look, here's the good news. Lately, their starting pitching has been outstanding, and I think we're all glad to finally see that at least that part of this team has really come together. They've been outstanding lately. Anderson, Fried, everybody's been terrific.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we've been waiting on for a long time now. Max Fried said that he had struggled with fastball command previously, but he's had some really good outings. He's been really consistent. And you can lean on a couple different guys to be consistent. I think the bullpen was really what we saw last year was a big point of emphasis with this team, but they've been kind of falling apart, each and every week. And now you have guys that are injured. Tyler Matzik is out. Luke Jackson is out from the bullpen. So to rely on starting pitching and finally see Charlie Morton get some really valuable innings and really seem like the Charlie Morton that we knew that he came into last year, I think that's so important. And you're going to need that because this offense has been struggling a whole lot for the Braves.
I look at the lineup and, we know all the metrics. They're not good with runners in scoring position. They're not good with guys at third base. And we can talk about balls in play and all this kind of metrical stuff that people love. But at the end of the day, if you're not producing, you're not producing. I have some concerns about maybe one or two guys. Is there anybody in particular in the lineup that you start looking as we're getting toward the end of May here that you have a little bit of concern with and wonder, okay, when does that switch sort of flip for that person?
I think it's pretty much every single guy in the lineup because I think if it's not one guy, it's another, right? We saw Ozuna struggling for quite some time, and we've seen glimpses of him breaking through. He's been able to connect and hit the long ball a little bit in the last couple of series, which is great. But it hasn't been consistent. And I think consistency is the biggest key word when it comes to this offense. We haven't seen that. I mean, this is a lineup top to bottom when you talk about metrics that these are a lot of guys that have had 30 home run seasons within the last 3 years. I think there's like 6 of them. Ozzy Albies hasn't been producing like you want him to. Matt Olson, certainly, I mean, he's hitting sub 200 and that's not really what you expected from the new first baseman. So I think top to bottom, there's a lot of concerns. Dansby Swanson certainly hasn't produced like we have wanted him to. We've seen him turn a little bit of a corner. I've liked Dansby's defense in the last couple of series, but this is a lineup who has struggled last year, same thing, through July. And so if we're looking like this is May and we're getting towards the midway point of the season, you really want them to turn a corner because what they're doing right now is not working. You can't just rely on the long ball. And that's something that they've done consistently well, but that's not really going to win you ball games. You saw them. I mean, the thing that happened with the Brewers in Milwaukee, that was just kind of a freak thing. They were up 4-0 and they end up losing 7-6. You can't rely on Kenley Jansen to have a good outing every single time. He's been so consistent. He's been so good, but you have to rely on these bats and this offense to get things going. And they haven't turned a corner yet consistently, top to bottom. There is no consistency. Ronald Acuna Jr., just when you think he's back and he's healthy and he looks great, he misses 5 games with a groin injury. So you just need someone to be consistent. And at this point, top to bottom, I don't think there's a single guy in this lineup who I can rely on.
You brought up Ronnie. I've sort of said I've sort of joked on my show about the idea of I don't care if Ronnie has to be the DH for the rest of the year and you have to play Ozuna in left field. And I'm kind of being facetious when I say all of that, but the idea being his bat has to be in the lineup all the time. And if his bat is not there, you see the difference between what goes on with and without this lineup. I don't know. I mean, I understand the injury factor of it, and I understand he's still sort of rehabbing. But, boy, you've got to do everything you can to just at least keep his bat in that lineup on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. And certainly Ronald Acuna Jr. would not disagree with that either. He is his biggest advocate, and he's constantly telling Snit that he wants to play, no matter what that looks like. But, these injuries are concerning. And even though it was just a groin injury, I was starting to get worried in the fact that he was consistently missing games just after missing, a whole season and a half, really, when you put the two together. And when I saw him in Gwinnett, because I was physically there for that last rehab assignment, when he was supposed to go 7 innings and went the whole 9. He looked better than I'd ever seen. And granted, that was just in Gwinnett. It wasn't at the major league level, but he really looked solid top to bottom, defensively and offensively. Offensively, we saw what he could do just in his first couple of games back with the Braves in a big league uniform. And you want that to be the consistency that we've talked about. I think, to your point, John, I think maybe Ronnie's bat would be a good thing consistently in this lineup. But it seems like, Snitker is not married to the idea of having him consistently in this lineup, which is a little confusing. We'll see what happens. I think really it just goes back to the fact that he's been banged up and that groin injury has been nagging, but he keeps saying, let me play, at least let him hit. Designated hitter, he could do that instead of playing right field for a whole 9. So we'll see. I mean, I think that when we continue to talk about consistency, maybe Ronald Acuna Jr.'s bat could be the good thing to turn this thing around, but they were without him last year. I hate to bring that up, but when they won a World Series, they were without him, and they found a way to win, and they found a way to make things happen. So there is an answer within that. I just don't think they have found it yet.
Yeah, they also had this guy named Freddie Freeman that when he turned it on, their record looked a lot different. So, they'll start up in Miami, and hopefully they'll get on a winning streak here. Let's flip over.
Can I say one thing really quickly?
Yeah.
The good thing for the Braves, I think, is that they're playing a lot of games coming up with teams that they can win. So they really need to get to that 500 threshold and then over it. They keep flirting with being almost 500, and they have some series coming up with some of the worst teams in baseball right now. So you could get your confidence up, get some wins in there, figure out what lineup is the sweet spot and what they need to do to put the ball in play and actually make runs come across the plate. And I'm not just talking about coming off the long ball. Then I think that that's going to at least build confidence within this offense to keep going towards the second half of the season.
Yeah, to your point, I've said June 2nd. If you look at the calendar on June 2nd, while the Braves are playing Colorado, Oakland, Pittsburgh, Washington, that's when the Mets have to head to play the Dodgers, Padres, Angels, and then come back home for the Brewers. So I'm with you. I mean, early part of June, there is a definite transformation between those two teams and how their schedule looks. So again, to me, if you can't get it done then, I don't know when the switch is going to get flipped on all of this. Let's flip over to the Falcons. Where are you on the idea of Desmond Ridder starting this year? I'm not in the Desmond Ridder. I don't want to see Desmond Ridder start, and I have my reasons, but I'm curious, where are you at on that discussion?
I mean, I don't either. If we're talking about game 1, I don't think that Desmond Ridder should be your starting quarterback. That doesn't mean that I solely believe in Marcus Mariota and the future of this franchise. It just means that I've said it before and I'll say it again. The quarterback position in the NFL is the trickiest to get correct. And Marcus Mariota is proof of that. Look at his college career and look at his NFL career. I mean, the two are not simultaneous so far. Maybe he flips the switch in Atlanta and does some things that we've never seen before, that he had in a Raiders uniform and a Titans uniform. But it's just so hard to really gauge how a quarterback is going to do in the NFL until he puts on the uniform. I know that's so cliche, but I really mean it. It is a totally different animal when you get out there. And listen, he doesn't have a whole lot of help on offense when we're talking about Desmond Ridder. So you put a rookie in there who really has never seen any valuable snaps in the NFL, literally 0. And then you have an offensive line who is going to, have you running for your life a little bit a couple times. He doesn't really have the pieces in place yet to be successful right away. There are some rookie quarterbacks that walk into an offense and they've got a lot of help. Well, Desmond wouldn't have that. So I don't really think putting somebody who has 0 meaningful snaps in the NFL in on game 1 is going to do you any favors. Now, that's not to say that I don't think that he could be the starting quarterback in the future. He has the intangibles. I really like him off the field. Everything that he says, I love. I think that he's really poised. He has all of the things and the makings that would make you think that he could lead a football team. But let's see what happens when he puts a uniform on, gets hit a couple times, and really has to figure how to make this offense work, because whoever is back there behind the offensive line for the Falcons is going to have to make some magic happen more times than not. They're going to have to see the playbook and kind of open it up on their own, because there are not a lot of pieces in place that'll really razzle-dazzle you when you're looking at the roster here for the Falcons. This is going to be a really tough year, and the only way to get through that, in my opinion, is at least starting out with a guy who has meaningful snaps in the league, and that would be Marcus Mariota. that could change in the middle of the season. I'm cool with that. I want to see how Desmond Ridder does in the preseason, and he certainly is going to fight for a job. He's been a big advocate of that. He said that in rookie minicamp that, this is a competition, and it absolutely is. He has every opportunity to prove himself, but game one, I do believe it should be Marcus Mariota.
So out in Vegas, where they build those 80-story casinos because of all the money that keeps pouring in there, they're saying Falcons somewhere in that 4.5 to 5 win range. I think they're going to beat that. What say you?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, this has always been a team, and I've said this before too. This has always been a team that surprised me. They're going to get some wins they probably shouldn't have, and they're going to lose some that they probably shouldn't have. And certainly this year, I don't think is a make or break year for Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot. There is no question in my mind that people should not be angry one way or another, whatever happens this year. They're trying to manage the cap situation. They're doing very well with that, might I add. I've been impressed with what they've done so far. But this is such a weird team. It's like a hodgepodge of guys that a lot of people haven't heard of. There's no like celebrity stars on offense or defense. I mean, you have Grady Jarrett and Jake Matthews are your two veterans on this team right now. It's so wild to me. So I think they're going to beat the 4.5 to 5. Because again, I think they're going to sneak in some wins that maybe people don't expect. But this is just such a tough year. On top of that, they have a ridiculous schedule. And so I don't know. I think it's hard, but I definitely think they're going to get over 5 wins. They're going to sneak in some that you wouldn't expect there. But I just don't even know what to expect with this team this year. I just don't know it's going to be great. I just know that it's not going to be great.
Well, I think they have the right coaching staff in place. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think they showed you last year that Arthur Smith, Dean Pease, they've got the right guys there. So, and still a lot of offseason. I think there's still going to be some more moves coming up. Let's flip over to the Atlanta Hawks. I was very comforted hearing Tony Ressler speak, and he was the one guy that I was pointing to on a consistent basis. Like, I'm not going to know how to feel about the Hawks until I hear him. What did you think about what he had to say and sort of the direction of where this franchise is going?
I was a little shocked, to be honest with you, that he was as open and honest as he was. I really appreciated the fact that he was just candid in the fact that, hey, look, we thought that having the team, almost essentially the same team that went on that Eastern Conference Finals run a year ago, transferring that into the new season, we thought that was going to work. And it didn't. And I was really surprised, but also, to use your word, comforted in the fact that he said that, because it didn't work. And we saw what happened. I mean, They were just flat against the Heat. And the Heat really, to be honest, even though they're my team, sorry, everybody, they're not that good. And so to see the Hawks be incredibly flat against them, it was really concerning, especially Trey obviously had a really bad series against the Heat. But I think it's a promising thing and things to be optimistic about when you're a Hawks fan. What he said was that they are going to make some big changes in the offseason, and you have to be excited about that because they have to. Clearly, they didn't make a lot of big changes going into this year. Didn't work out. That's fine. We're going to wash this season, whatever. But next year, I think their backs are against the wall, and they're going to have to answer to some things. And you really, really, really need to do some big moves in the offseason to make sure that the Hawks are successful, because to have an Eastern Conference Finals team and then to be out in the first round of the playoffs, that's just not going to cut it.
Celtics in 7, by the way. That's my.
That's okay. I actually don't disagree with you, so whatever.
Yeah. Follow her on Twitter at Ria_Martin. You see her. She is the sports reporter for 11 Alive News and joined us here. Thanks so much, Maria, for being a part of it. Thanks for hanging out with me, and we'll talk here soon.
Absolutely. Anytime. You guys have a great day.
Thanks. It's Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta.